Nearly 200 people here in Michigan have been wrongly convicted, sometimes spending decades behind bars for crimes they didn't commit. Today, some of those people and their supporters are meeting up here in Lansing to rally for change.
Prison. We got several hundred years worth of prison out here. Several hundred years, and it's only a handful of us.
Several groups gathering today on the steps of the state capitol to protest wrongful convictions and ask for changes in the criminal justice system. Mothers, wives, attorneys, and people who've been exonerated all banding together for a common cause. Ramon Ward was set free after serving almost 30 years for a double murder he didn't commit. Ward says the issue is larger than just getting people out of prison. It's also about offering those people support when they return to society.
The people that's in a position to make a difference, I just hope that they just do the right thing and help exonerees get on their feet.
Ward's wife went to law school to help free her husband when she saw no one was coming to his rescue. She says wrongful convictions just don't impact the person serving time, they impact everyone.
When you just say the name wrongful conviction, that means someone is actually innocent. Well, if the innocent person is in jail or in prison, that means the guilty person is still on the street.
Kisha Martin says more resources need to be devoted to overturning these convictions.
I'm asking for funding for the conviction integrity units that need help with investigating these cases of people that are innocent, because the families, the friends and loved ones, they're suffering.
One of those family members is Cassara Jackson. She says her son Cornelius is serving time for a murder he didn't commit. Jackson has been advocating for her child, but says she's hitting brick walls, and it's because the system is broken.
This last prosecutor in Jackson said that even though he had some valid points in his motion, he didn't present it right. Well, we don't have enough money to do that.
According to the National Registry of Exonerations report published back in March, 129 people were exonerated last year. 20 of them were in Michigan. The report says exonerees in the U.S. have served nearly 25,000 years due to wrongful convictions. Fox 47 News spoke with many people here today, and each of their stories is compelling. We plan to take a deeper dive next week and share some of their stories with you. Your neighborhood reporter in Lansing, Erica Murphy, Fox 47 News. The Michigan Conviction Integrity Unit has been investigating claims of wrongful convictions in the state since 2019. Today, all of that hard work is paying off with the unit's very first exoneration.
Thank you. Thank you for all you've done for me.
Gilbert Poole Jr. spent the last 3 decades behind bars for murder. Poole was convicted back in 1989 based mainly on a bite mark found on the victim's body. The WMU Cooley Law Innocence Project and the Conviction Integrity Unit have been working to get Poole's conviction overturned. On Wednesday, Poole became a free man.
I didn't think I was going to have this much support, and for years I didn't. But thank God that he sent these guardian angels down here to work and get me out.
This is the very first exoneration to come out of the State Conviction Integrity Unit since it was created back in 2019, and Attorney General Dana Nessel couldn't be happier.
It is the most incredible feeling in the world to know that you've been able to deliver even just a little bit of justice to someone who has been denied justice for so many years.
Last year, 20 people were freed in Michigan after new evidence found they'd been wrongly convicted. Fox 47 News has talked with exonerees and people in the innocence community in recent weeks about the challenges, resources, and issues surrounding wrongful convictions. In Wayne County, the prosecutor's office has established its own conviction integrity unit to handle cases in that region. The statewide unit handles all the other cases. Right now, Nessel says she has a small team working diligently to balance the scales of justice.
Well, we have 2 investigators and 2 attorneys that are basically full-time for that unit. Then we have other people in the office that oversee it. So for instance, our Solicitor General, Fadwa Hamoud, she oversees the unit. And we have other people that get consulted. But basically, we're talking about a unit of 4 people.
Nessel says establishing the unit was something she promised on the campaign trail, and seeing that work make a difference in the lives of the people impacted by it is encouraging. Despite the AG's dedication to seeing the wrongfully convicted freed, she's still apologizing for a justice system that has historically failed some.
I'm so sorry for what's happened to you, but I'm glad that at least after all of these years, justice delayed was not justice denied.
As for Poole, he says he's relying on members of the Innocence Project to help him transition smoothly into society.
The support system should be in place to help people. Even if there was a chance to reintegrate into society, have them prepared. Right now, I have to rely upon Marla to know where I'm going from here. I have no idea.
People in the Innocence community say the creation of the Conviction Integrity Unit is a step in the right direction, but more work needs to be done to help people who are still behind bars for crimes they didn't commit. Your neighborhood reporter in Jackson, Erica Murphy, Fox 47 News. Imagine being convicted of a crime you didn't commit, sent to prison for years, then getting out only to find more hurdles and barriers. That is the reality for many exonerees here in the state. Many people in the Innocence community say people who've been wrongly convicted often don't get the help they need finding housing, employment, and education after they get out. Marla Mitchell-Shoshone is with the Cooley Law Center Innocence Project, which has helped free 7 people in the last 20 years. She says the support gap will widen as more and more people in the state are exonerated.
Think about this is a new social phenomenon. Not convicting innocent people. That's old news, but we're more aware of it now.
Sharon Winfrey leads group therapy sessions for people who have fallen victim to a wrongful conviction. She says her clients face many challenges on the outside that most people wouldn't even think of.
And he said that the technology was different, the just the streets, driving, everything was totally different for him because he had been incarcerated for 27 years.
Daryl Siggers went to prison for murder back in 1984. He served 34 years before he was set free. Siggers says new technology is overwhelming for people who've spent the bulk of their life behind bars.
There weren't cell phones when I went to prison, and computers, the advance in technology and computers had just, went far beyond what it was in 1984. So.
Siggers says part of the reason why his transition was tough is that the programming in place for parolees was not available to him.
They have what is called the reentry programs for parolees. They don't have a reentry program for exonerees. And so it's a lot more difficult for us to adjust.
Mitchell-Shoshone says the Department of Corrections will help, but many of the wrongfully convicted just don't want to ask.
So the Michigan Department of Corrections Reentry Success Program, they will work with exonerees, and they are willing to do that.
Attorney Wolf Mueller has represented about 20 people who were wrongfully convicted. So far, he's won $20 million on their behalf. He says many of his clients have faced these hurdles, and despite knowing they could ask the Department of Corrections for help, they would rather not.
They didn't want to be part of the MDOC in the first place. So when they come out, they don't want to have to sit in a probation officer's office and try to explain the problems they're having. Now,
Ramon Ward was freed after spending nearly 30 years in prison for a double murder he had nothing to do with. Ward now has an organization dedicated to helping people tap into the resources available to them.
But for a lot of people, they don't got nothing, and it's sad. And that's where I help them out, and I'm trying to get houses in placement, trying to start a housing for exonerees and help them get established.
Since the late 80s, more than 130 people have been exonerated in Michigan. Despite the gaps in services, many exonerees like Ward and Siggers are thriving by supporting each other and turning their decades-long trials into testimonials to inspire others. Tomorrow, Fox 47 News will take a look at how some in the Innocence community are working to fill in the gap and other resources that are available to newly exonerated people here in Michigan. Your neighborhood reporter in Lansing, Erica Murphy, Fox 47 News. They spent years behind bars for crimes they didn't commit. Now, some of Michigan's exonerees say they are not being paid for all the years they lost behind bars. Some state officials say that's because the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Fund is almost empty. The Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Fund was created as part of a legislative effort to make sure people who've been wrongly incarcerated have the chance to get back some of the money they would have earned if they'd never been convicted. Under the WICA Act, these men and women are entitled to get tens of thousands of dollars for each year spent behind bars. What you may not know is that the path to getting this money isn't easy or fast.
Some of the egregious problems in the statute are, if you are wrongfully convicted and your conviction was reversed for what's called insufficient evidence, you never should have really been charged. You're out of luck on the statute because you weren't lucky enough to find what they call new evidence that caused your conviction to be overturned.
Mueller says these cases can take anywhere from a year to 6 months to resolve, and he's finding even after his clients have won, they are still in limbo.
I have 6 clients who are in total owed about $5.5 million. There's probably less than $1 million in the account. And they're not just my guys, there's other people out there.
Mueller's estimates are close to what state officials are telling Fox 47 News. In an email from Attorney General Dana Nessel's office, we learned that the WICA Fund has about $1.2 million. The state owes exonerees about $9 million. Larry Smith Jr. was exonerated in February. Smith spent almost 30 years of his life locked up for murder. He says he has filed a lawsuit against the state, hoping to get compensated for the miscarriage of justice.
They said we had to file a lawsuit, which I did, in order to claim the resources or the finances, the $50,000 a year that they say is available for us for being wrongfully convicted, but they don't have money in the fund. So where I'm at, I'm waiting.
That's the thing. Many people might assume if you're exonerated, you're released and get a big fat check for all your trouble. But that is not the case for the wrongly accused. In order to access the WICA Fund, a lawsuit has to be filed against the state, which is a major barrier, according to some in the Innocence community, because this group of people may not have the means to retain a lawyer. Many question how long exonerees will have to wait for WICA money, while others question if lawmakers will earmark enough money to meet the growing number of people who are eligible.
The fund, it is funded, but there's a very good likelihood, given the high number of exonerations that we're seeing in the state of Michigan, which is a very positive thing, we may very well see that what has been budgeted for 2021 is insufficient.
Fox 47 News did reach out to lawmakers to ask about the shortfall, when it will be funded, and where that money would come from. In an email from the Office of House Appropriations Chair Thomas Albert says, "This is an issue we are aware of and already working to address." On May 13th, the Michigan House approved a supplemental budget bill that includes $7 million for the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Fund. That is the amount the state budget office said was needed at this time. The money would be appropriated from the state's general fund. The bill allocating $7 million toward the WICA Fund is awaiting Senate approval, but even if that amount is approved, it will not cover the current $9 million worth of claims or any new claims that are approved moving forward. Your neighborhood reporter in Lansing, Erica Murphy, Fox 47 News.
The system is flawed. And I believe it's time for legislators as well as the governor to really step up and correct some of the flaws that we have in our criminal justice system.
A group of bipartisan lawmakers has introduced a package of bills that would allow certain inmates to earn productivity credits. The package is called the Safer Michigan Act and would allow inmates to reduce their prison sentences by earning credits for courses like GED completion and other vocational classes. Taking those classes and earning those credits would be used to reduce those prison sentences. State Representative Tyrone Carter is one of the Safer Michigan Act proposal sponsors. He says the change is practical.
Because we know they're going to be released eventually. So depending on their charge, and even if, their charge or whatever classes we offer aren't consistent with that, to prepare them for, once they're released.
Critics like the Michigan Association of Police Chiefs say the proposal doesn't take victims into account, and it should.
Victims are taking a kind of a back seat and being not made the priority that they need to be when these things are taken into consideration. We think it removes a right from them.
Marvin Cotton Jr. was incarcerated for many years but was exonerated after evidence proved his innocence. Cotton says everyone deserves a chance to turn their life around.
All of us have done things in our life that we don't want to be judged for the rest of our lives. And for the people that are eligible for certain programs that will come out of this, I believe that it should be something, at least to give people something to work towards.
In 2019, Michigan's incarceration rate ranked 22nd in the country, according to federal data. Michigan has about 40,000 people in prison. Neighboring states like Ohio have just over 50,000, while Indiana has over 33,000 in 2019. Critics of the state's criminal justice system say Michigan's incarceration rates are high, and it's time to change to bring those numbers down.
The Safer Michigan Act would only apply to people who are sentenced after the package passes. Inmates who are serving life without parole are not eligible. Your neighborhood reporter in Lansing, Erica Murphy, Fox 47 News.